Was that on purpose? Because that was brilliant.
Welcome to Still Untitled, the Adam Savage Project. I'm Will.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Norm.
And we have Maltese Falcon as a special guest today.
Norm, would you just pick that up and pass it over to me?
Sure thing, Will. Oh, I thought I could do it with one hand. I was so sure.
Really? Welcome to the gun show.
Oh, no.
I can't do it! Wow, I thought I'd be able to do it.
No, it's really heavy.
All right, Will.
It's 20.
Oh, it's my turn?
28 pounds.
So as it cuts across here, I'm going to switch it to another side. I didn't want to knock microphones.
Brace yourself mentally already.
Oh, right, you had it here. No, put it here. That's what we were both trying.
Yes.
How about right there, so I don't have to navigate microphones?
Best radio
Here you
ever.
go. That's
All right,
dead.
go.
Now you...
Lift it.
You'll-
No.
I have leverage. My arms are slightly
This
longer.
is going to be terrible for
Yeah, I
people who are
apologize.
only
It's both
listening,
bad for the
but-
table and the radio.
Yeah, all right.
The point being is that the Maltese Falcon's very heavy.
So
Yes.
I was in Portland last weekend,
Yeah.
and the first thing I noticed as a resident of San Francisco for the last 15 years, and I haven't been kind of leisurely in another city in a while. Usually when Norm and I go someplace for work,
It's very directed,
It's pretty busy. And I noticed that you don't see everybody standing on the side of the street there with their phone out.
Really?
Even in Portland?
Even in Portland. Like, you see people with earbuds a lot, walking, listening to music or something. But I didn't notice the kind of just massive... Like, if you go to the BART station in San Francisco and you stand on the platform, every single person is bent down. We're all going to have hunchbacks in 30 years.
But it's also worse than that. It's like when you go to a restaurant and you see people on a date and they're both on a phone. And I joke, like, they're probably talking to each other. But they're not. Like, they're both texting...
I've texted Gina from the couch when she was in the kitchen before. I mean, I'm not ashamed
We've done
of
that in the house. We have 3
like,
floors here. It's true.
It's like the baby's asleep in the living room. You don't want to say anything, so you know.
So this is actually... Julie and I confront this a lot, both because of our own digital addictions, which we, like every other modern person, suffers from to greater and lesser degrees, but also because, we're raising 2 15-year-olds. Digital natives, I guess, as they're called.
No, but I mean,
And
they don't know a time before the internet.
they don't know a time before the internet, and our navigation of the restriction of their screen time is a very difficult process. We use it it's definitely a carrot and also a stick. And when they screw up really badly, it really hurts, right? To take away all the digital.
What's the new TV was?
Absolutely.
Back in the 60s.
But then, and I actually did read one study that said it almost doesn't matter what the restriction is as long as you have some.
Like just in a disciplinary sense.
As a disciplinary sense. Like when I was a kid, we couldn't watch Saturday morning cartoons past 9:30 in the morning.
Oh, so you had to get up
We
early.
had to go out and do stuff. We couldn't watch TV until after 6 p.m. on weekdays. So we couldn't just come home from school and get on the teat, as it were.
Yeah.
We had to go out and do something. And I agree with those restrictions. And we've always had those television restrictions for the boys. And now the digital stuff it's been very fascinating.
I kind of assume that the TV stuff isn't a problem anymore.
Which no one's
watching.
Do they
we
care?
almost don't watch TV anymore. I mean, they watch movies downstairs, but that's fine with me.
And DVR stuff, but it's not like appointment every night. It's not the center of the home.
For us, we've had a TiVo since the dawn of time. And
Yeah.
it's since TiVo was a thing. My wife was like, "Hey, you got to get one of those." It's the first time she ever said that about consumer electronics. So I went straight down to Best Buy and dropped $300.
Right.
But like, TV has become a thing that I do on a schedule, but it's my schedule. Like I watch an hour of TV twice a week, and then that's it. Like it's not something I just have on.
That whole thing where people are, when we were kids, where you used to watch. I mean, I remember the early '90s with Thursday night on NBC. Man,
Friends, Seinfeld,
and
Silverman.
Mad About You.
Yeah.
I mean that was an important. That was the line. Oh, and followed by ER. That was the lineup.
And when people were all watching the same thing together, and everyone was watching the 6 p.m. news.
Yeah.
That was your connection to the greater world, and not just your family. I noticed, like, you live in a place where you don't have the TV's not the center of your living space.
In fact, actually, it's funny because while I love technology, I hate looking at it. So we only have one desktop computer in this house, and it's hidden way up in my office. I don't like seeing screens around.
Do you have a shared TV? Like, if you and Julia and the kids want to watch a movie,
We do. In the living room, behind a cabinet there is a television. It's a big one, and I mean, big one. It's like 50 inch.
It's a big one for the 2000s, not a big one for the 2010s.
And we'll sit. I mean, actually, now we finally got our couch back from the couch cover, and that pit is all set up to sit and so that 8 or 9 people can watch a movie together because we love doing that.
Yeah,
but it's not like I grew up in a house where the TV was in like the kitchen, like dining room almost.
Yeah,
you ate food and watched the TV, and the more I think about it, it's better to like. I would love to live in a home where you couldn't see the TV in any of the public living spaces.
Well, the TV we have in the kitchen here, we love it. We love turning it on at certain points.
Well, it's nice if you're chopping or something. I mean, I don't have a TV in the kitchen, but I see the appeal of that.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's just to put music on.
So we had there's some interesting digital restrictions we went under going to Australia, which is...
That was a nice segue.
Thank you. Which is a few years ago. See, I have this phobia now because a few years ago I went to Canada, and I've probably talked about this on one of our podcasts. I went to Toronto or Montreal, and I turned on my phone and surfed the web for a couple of hours.
How much? How much did it cost?
$12,500.
Holy Jesus!
What? We have not talked about
really?
No!
Yeah. So we flew from...
Holy cow!
Wait. That's where you surfing? The one on only 100 websites?
Rogers Wireless at that point was charging something like 10 cents a kilobyte.
Holy God!
Yeah.
That's insane. You could do telegrams in 1910 for less than that.
Yep. Yeah. I'm not kidding about the 10 cents a kilobyte. That's a real...
So you, like two YouTube videos and you're in $1,000.
So here's what happened.
Wow.
I was in Montreal. I surfed the web on the computer for some research, blah, 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 blah. And we then flew from Montreal to LA. And I remember this specifically because we stay at the Beverly Hilton, or we used to stay a lot at the Beverly Hilton, because it's kind of like an old, not cool anymore hotel.
A lot of red velvet.
And we love how kind of not cool it is, right? It means that it's quiet, and I like that. Mm-hmm. So we're actually by the pool at the Hilton, total cliche, and my phone stops working. So I dial 611, and she says... Oh, yes, your phone doesn't work because of your inordinately large bill. And I'm like, I'm paid up 100%. She's like, yeah, but you racked up a lot of costs. Were you in Canada yesterday? Yeah.
Oh, that was your first mistake. No, I lost my phone yesterday.
She said, I said, what's the bill? And she said, $12,500. And I was like, what? And then she said, so I started... The first stage of dealing with death was denial, right? Yeah. I was like, okay, what can we do? Can we backdate it? Give me an international plan, backdate it, right? Which has worked for me in the past for bad charges. And then, by the way, the cell phone companies will frequently backdate things that you got overcharged for and couch them under a policy you can pay much less for, like pennies on the dollar.
As long as you pay.
What?
Anything to get you to pay.
Right. So, I mean, I've had something like a $600 bill reduced to a $150 bill.
That's a little more reasonable, but still a lot.
So in this one...
$12,000?
She's like, we can reduce it to $2,500. And I was like, you know what? I know somewhere, at some point, I clicked a box at the end of a EULA that said yes to this, but I am not going to pay a penny of this. This is literally,
it's extortion.
Highway robbery.
Yeah.
You are waiting at an intersection between two countries and exploiting the fact that you know that people are going to forget to turn off their phones and screw them. So I am not going to pay a penny of this. And so we hung up.
Hold on. Whose name is the account on?
It's on mine.
Okay. Was there a recognition process during this call?
There was after.
Okay.
Because I at that point I had 40,000 Twitter followers.
Yeah, I'm in that neighborhood. So it's a powerful number of Twitter followers.
I tweeted something along the lines of the hell with AT&T. I just got a $12,000 bill for surfing in Canada. Hashtag something like screw AT&T.
Screw AT&T.
But I don't use curses. I try not to use curses in my Twitter.
You could have said die in a fire. That's totally acceptable.
Die in a fire.
Right.
So 2 hours later, my phone rings. It's the office of the president of AT&T.
Uh-huh.
And they say, apparently you have a lot of Twitter followers. Now, look, we can reduce this. But I was like, I'm not paying. This is wrong. This is totally wrong. Oh, I'd also, in that, as soon as I tweeted, I started getting calls for interviews, and I did, like, literally by poolside, did like 2 interviews.
Oh, yeah.
with websites about the bill, and then AT&T called, and they said, we can take care of this. We can make this go away.
Yeah, but that's bullshit, kind of. Because if that happened to somebody who doesn't have 40,000 Twitter followers,
agreed.
It's just the middle fingers straight at you from the man.
I completely agree with you. But at least I can use the platform.
Yes, that's true.
Right.
And
I don't have to sign something. They didn't make me sign anything. I said, I'm still going to talk about this as a problem. It's a problem that gets exploited every time a national border is crossed.
Or even if you live on... Oh, sorry, Norm. Even if you live on the border.
Yeah.
Like, we know people who live in upstate New York, and if they pick up the Rogers Tower...
Oh, they get really...
Right, so it's a constant problem.
But the carriers have to, to a large extent, fix this problem.
Yes.
And this was a problem because people were getting data plans, and a lot of that stuff was still new.
It's still...
And it's still bad, but...
it's still...
Your experience is...
It's still the default is, let's milk as much money out of this unexplored, unregulatable space as we can. Because it is by definition unregulatable.
Okay, so...
Except by the market forces, right?
So what do you do now? So
what I do now is, here's what I said. We land in Australia, me, the boys, and Julia. And I'm like, everybody, phones in airplane mode until we leave Australia. I swear to God, not even for a second.
Why don't you just get a SIM card, an Australian SIM card, and jam it in?
Now, I looked into this when we went to Scotland. I didn't look into it in Australia. It's complicated. It's complicated because of the different cellular antennas within the phone.
Yeah, 700, 1900.
Because I'm in Verizon, it's not so trivial, and you have to jailbreak your phone in order to make new SIM cards work.
No, with Verizon, all the GSM slots are unlocked, so you can even take a Verizon phone and put it on AT&T.
I had spent so much time investigating it in Scotland, only to find out that I really couldn't do anything.
Back then, sure, with your
2 years ago, so I didn't investigate it in Australia.
It's gotten less complex as Apple has started selling iPhones in more markets, because now they just make the same, the 6 has 37 different antennas or something ridiculous.
Right.
Next time you travel abroad, you can get... But so you got a burner phone,
so what we did
like
was
a drug dealer or something.
We got burner Nokia phones with the standard numerical keypad.
Not even Windows Phone Nokia?
Yeah, so I want to know, what is the burner Nokia phone look like today?
Oh, it looks like a phone that I was using 10 years ago. It is a little screen up top that's color and the crappiest resolution ever.
So still color.
Do you have to T9 text? Can you text?
Yeah, you can text as long as you click, A, B, 1, 2, 3. You're texting on a numerical keypad. It takes forever.
Oh, wow.
It was so awful. It was really like you just started calling people again.
So, I'm sorry, I was going to tell you I'll be there in 5 minutes, but it's just easier to call.
Did you play a lot of Snake?
What?
Did you play a lot of Snake?
I looked for, the first thing I did was look for Snake. It wasn't on the phone.
Oh, that's a bummer.
So
if you're going to use a crappy Nokia,
I know.
At least give
it
you
was
Snake.
awful. And then Julie and I kept on, we had 2 phones, one for each of us. And we kept on taking the wrong ones out, so... She would get texts about my arrival time on set and stuff like that.
Can't you just pop the front face off and put a pink one on hers and a blue one on yours and call it a day?
It's almost like I didn't want it to matter. Like, the hell with these phones. It's literally just an emergency so I can get a cab or call the police if I need.
How do you get a cab with just a phone? You don't have an app.
You go into any store and you say, can you call me a cab?
Oh, okay.
Everyone's really nice in Australia.
I guess that's true.
It's true, they are.
So you wanted to stay disconnected.
So you didn't have a data. You didn't have.
Well, no. So I guess about a week in, our assistant realized that we were being stupid and signed both Julia's and my phones and the boys' phones up to international texting plans.
Oh, okay.
And frankly, that is phenomenal for travel because you don't really need to be calling people. And being available on text to the U.S. was actually fantastic in terms of my ability to conduct business. In some parts of Australia, in New Zealand, you're 5 hours. You're 19 hours ahead.
Yeah.
Right. Or 5 hours behind, except it's tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah.
And in Australia, you're 7 hours behind or 9 hours behind. And I have to say 9 hours behind, which is where you are when you're in Perth on the west coast of Australia, is the most diabolical, can't do anything to the United States with a 9 hour lag.
9 hours behind means
that my midnight's your 9 a.m.
Oh, that's terrible. So it means at 9 a.m. it's like 4:30 or something. Yeah, that shouldn't be.
No, so it's basically by the time I wake up, you're on your way home. By the time I go to sleep, you're arriving at work.
This is exactly the problem that Swatch Internet Time was developed to solve. Do you not know about the Beats?
Oh, something about.
Oh, it's the best dumb idea ever. It's why I like a Smarch. Is because you can have smart. It's 951 beats right now. They just divide the day into 1,000 equal slices, and it starts at 4 p.m. on the West Coast. I don't know.
This is terrible.
It's you could buy watches that did this. Like I've always loved the 25-hour and change watches that the JPL guys who are running the Martian rover missions use.
Oh, right.
Like I think that those are amazing artifacts, and they're just they have to be unbelievably useless to anyone else in the world.
I appreciate that technology that's only good for one person in one place.
Yeah,
Nifty.
that's great. But the Swatch Internet Time is that for everyone.
So at any rate, it was weird not being able to look stuff up on the internet.
Immediately, yeah.
That felt like it was weird at first, and then it was weird a couple of times a day after that. Well, it was also unpleasant to navigate. I think that, obviously all of this will go away.
That's infrastructure.
By the times our kids are adults,
You think so?
I really do. I think it'll be much more like you can sign up for a map plan, for instance, where it's not just a data plan. But what gets me right now is that even Apple, when you go into...
This was on the Nokia phone. You could sign up for a map plan.
No.
Oh.
I just think that eventually you'll be able to sign up for a navigation plan internationally, right? So you're not just sucking down huge amounts of...
I don't know. I think that affects so few people because so few people travel internationally.
Well...
And it's such an opportunity to ream them to the tune of $12,500.
The thing that really gets me is how complicated it is to turn off all the proper stuff on your phone internationally. Right? Like there's like 5 different slider buttons of voice and data, cellular data. And it's like, I'm pretty savvy and I don't know where the crossover is for some of that and how it'll directly affect. And it's like, come on, this is a screen that displays text. Can't you show me what each of these things does and why I'd want to click them?
But it's Apple's in charge of that. They sell phones to dozens or hundreds of carriers probably around the world. And the carriers, it's not in the carrier's best interest to be transparent about that. They built whole businesses around not being transparent.
My question is totally rhetorical because I'm an angry market participant who doesn't like getting boned.
I don't know. I thought that when we had the Spectrum auction and Google ran up the price on what is now the LTE bands that Verizon uses, so that and in the process of that required that they be open and accessible, a lot of this stuff would go away because someone would sell a phone that taps into that network and is just a pure data phone that you hook a phone number to.
Right.
Nobody's done that yet because I of reasons that I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't understand that either.
But I'm continuing to be sad about the state of telecoms in the U.S. Wow. So, okay.
It is a sad situation.
So you have your burner phone,
so we have the burner
like a common
phones,
drug dealer.
And we come back to our rooms and use Wi-Fi in the hotel rooms.
Okay.
Wi-Fi all over Australia was frequently free in the hotels.
In nice hotels, I presume.
Nice hotels.
Yeah, you're not saying the
motel. But in the U.S., I find that the nicer the hotel, the more expensive the Wi-Fi.
And true. Frequently the crappier.
Oh, and the shittier. Yeah, totally.
Well, I think there's a correlation between the nicer the hotel, the bigger the hotel, the more expensive was to redo their IT.
Oh, yeah, no. I know. These big, nice hotels that were built in the 20s are all brick and really hard to put Wi-Fi signals through. And the companies, the third-party companies, they contract to put the repeaters and routers everywhere. It's a nightmare. The hell with them. $35 a day is a stupid price to pay for internet.
Yeah. Yes. Even anything a day is stupid. When you're paying $250 plus a night. If I can go to the Holiday Inn Express and pay $79 a night and get free Wi-Fi.
The fastest Wi-Fi I've ever gotten in a hotel was in the one in Mojave Desert. Was the motel in Mojave Desert.
Oh, really?
It's blazingly.
Wow. It's like that Quest commercial. The Quest where it's like the middle of nowhere and the guy walks in and goes, "What movies do you have?" Every movie ever made.
Oh, right.
By every director. Goes, how is that possible? Now we have that.
So because we have a concern about being digitally addicted
and being present when your family's around,
right? And it's like you're in a foreign country. Who cares how fast the Wi-Fi in the hotel is? You're in another country. Get out and go do stuff. So I read a ton of books on vacation. On the tour.
So you say you read a ton of books. Did you take paper copies of books with you?
I took a couple, and I didn't read them digitally. I read everything in a paper copy. I brought a couple and bought several while I was there.
And left some behind, or
we shipped them back.
So I like when
Only if I really hate a book do I leave it behind. Because if I did, because I'll ship it back. Because if it's good, I want to give it to somebody.
Fair enough. That's the thing I missed. So I switched to digital books years ago.
Yeah.
And it was, I think, right before my honeymoon, the Kindle came out. So we were going for like 10 days or 2 weeks or something like that. And I'm a fast reader.
Yeah.
And we were going to lay on beaches and read books and drink,
Yeah.
boat drinks. So I took a suitcase full of books with me on that trip. Not like a carry-on, like a big-ass book.
Yeah.
It was for Gina and me, a huge book of soup. And I never wanted to do that at the end, by the end of that, because it was an enormous pain in the ass. It was a huge waste of resources, because, I mean, it's a whole other suitcase. Somebody else could have put a dog in that space or something. I don't know. And, like, I have stopped being attached. I thought I was no longer attached to the physical books.
Yeah.
But I miss them.
Right.
Like, I miss the page turning.
It's funny because I was thinking, this directly segues into something that I was thinking while reading one of the books. I read Wild by Cheryl Strayed, which is just about to be a movie starring Reese Witherspoon.
Okay.
I just got chills thinking about the book. I can't recommend it enough. Cheryl Strayed, her last name isn't originally Strayed, Strayed, but when she got divorced, none of this is a real spoiler. Basically, she was in her early 20s and her mom died. And she kind of had a meltdown over a few years and her life sort of fell apart. And her marriage dissolved. And when she was signing her divorce papers, it said, "What's your new name?" And she realized, I can choose anything. So she wrote Strayed, Cheryl Strayed. Because she considered that's what she did. She strayed from the path.
Yeah.
Right? It's a beautiful book. What happened was she kind of healed herself by walking the Pacific Crest Trail from Mojave to Washington.
That sounds wonderful.
Wow.
And it took her over 100 days, and it was absolutely backbreaking and grueling and transformative and transcendent. And the book is all of those things as well. It's just
It's the story of the walk.
the story of the walk, and
Beautiful.
it's incredibly moving. And she overpacks her backpack. It weighs like more than half of her weight. She nicknames it Monster. And one of the things she learns from the other hikers is that when you bring books on the trail, you burn every night the pages you've read that day.
Oh.
Wow.
Right. You lighten your load as you go.
Wow.
Right. And
Wow.
that is a key part of backpacking. But now
You just take a Kindle.
that's it. You bring a paperweight and you have one weight that carries all the books you want.
Yeah, 2 weeks
Or bring your iPad or bring your iPod and just listen to it.
Right.
Yeah, maybe. More charging
When
that
did
way.
she do the walk?
What's that?
When was the walk?
It was in the 90s
Okay.
that she did it. She was, I guess, around 26, 27. And so it was the middle, late 90s.
Is that something that any of these people, any of you guys on this table, ever want to do? A long walk cross country? It's a very cliche thing to do, but it's very, there's something very enamoring about it.
Well, so we've been talking about this off podcast, but my wife and I have been upgrading our camping gear with the plan to do some camping this fall and winter, which is the optimal season for Northern
wonderful
California
here, yeah.
camping. And camping, gathering camping gear satisfies all of my shpilkas about organization and knolling and research and everything. But also, I wanted to make sure that my hiking boots weren't going to kill me, so I started hiking in them. And the hiking felt really good. And so now every day for the past couple months, minus Australia, I've been strapping on a 35-pound pack and walking a couple miles every day. And it feels really, really good. And I'm experiencing that euphoria from the working out that I've always heard about for the first time in my life. Because I kind of I need to have a purpose. I guess maybe I'm sort of a prepper now, right?
Well, hold on, but are you a robot apocalypse prepper? Or are you a super flu prepper?
But it really does appeal to me, Norm. I think about it a lot. There's the Appalachian Trail up the East Coast, and then the Pacific Crest Trail, and there's a whole bunch of different trails around the world.
And long trails.
And long ones.
You can hike the length of the Andes in South America if you're insane.
That all sounds really, I don't have the desire to put myself in genuine, abiding physical danger, but I do love the idea of spending weeks out in the wilderness feeling that clear headspace and
Or just in the middle of America.
There's no
walking cross country.
There's no danger with I mean there's more danger than sitting in your house watching TV reruns on TV. But I mean if you're prepared and you know going on a long the longest trip I've ever done was about 2 weeks by back, which is kind of depending on how you pack. The way I pack, that's as far as I can go without having to stop and get food along the way.
Right. That's a pretty reasonable. 2 weeks of food is a lot of weight.
It's a lot of weight. Like by the end of that trip, I was really excited because the last 2 days were super easy because I'd eaten most of the weight.
Right.
And that was a summertime trip, so I basically would go with a hammock and a real light sleeping bag and a fly.
You did ultralight.
So I did all. Well, no, not. This was in the '90s, so we didn't have ultralight back then. I was just a dumb kid.
Yeah.
And I like sleeping in hammocks because they're comfortable.
Yeah.
So I went for 2 weeks, and by the end of the 2 weeks, I like that for me was the lead up to I'm graduating from college next year, and I'm gonna go walk the Appalachian Trail. Maybe I'll go walk the Appalachian Trail, and that was the dry run to see if I liked walking for 2 weeks.
Right.
And I need more social interaction with human beings.
Yeah. Did you run into anybody else?
I met tons of fascinating people. Like I met. So I grew up about 4 miles from the trail from the AT, and I just started.
Oh right. So I've heard
2
the
weeks
Appalachian
away.
Trail is really crowded.
It can be. It wasn't so bad then. I think now it's much worse.
Yeah.
If you go in the summer, there are parts like around through DC, through Shenandoah, and all that stuff. It gets, as I understand it, super dense.
Yeah.
But like down in Georgia and up in Maine, it's there's still very few people. It was really lovely. I don't think I'd want to do one straight through. In order to do that in 3 months, you have to go really fast.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to do a month and then take some time off or rent an Airbnb someplace and then get back on the trail at the end of that 2 weeks
But also, maybe even do it with your family. I bought the boys packs because I figured, this is a good age. 15, they get some camping in, some hiking in now. And then when they leave home in a few years, which will be like that, they'll have a pack for life, They'll have the skills to do that. Every hike we did in Australia, New Zealand, Julia and I were thinking and talking about Wild because it's so powerful the way she writes about how the isolation is both liberating and claustrophobic. Mm-hmm. How her feelings about the trail and her isolation on it change over the course of 100 days, how she changes.
You change day to day.
What's that?
You can change day to day.
Absolutely. And, walking through the Mojave Desert as opposed to walking on exposed ridges of Oregon mountain range, where there's snow, but it's still 95 degrees and you're blistering at the same time as, the moment there's shade, it's freezing. It's a terrific read, and I really can't recommend it enough.
I'll definitely check that out.
Given that the movie's coming out, go get it.
You get out in front of that. You don't want to be terrific. If the movie comes out bad, you don't want to be.
Plus, you don't want the copy in the book. That's now a major motion
picture. The Kindle version. That's the worst thing about the digital versions. They all update. My copy of All You Need Is Kill now has Tom Cruise on the cover.
Which is, that movie is no longer called...
Oh, it's still called that.
Edge of Tomorrow. Now it's called Live, Die, Repeat.
Yes, they changed it again for the release.
It still says everything is for... What is it?
Live, Die, Repeat.
But what was the original bad name?
Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow. It still says Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, no, I know. But apparently for the DVD release or the digital release, they're now calling it Live, Die, Repeat.
Because that'll help sales. Nice job, guys.
That's like changing the night your show is on and wondering why people aren't tuning in.
Yeah. Oh.
I also read... hold on, let me see what I have to see what this book was.
We're looking things up on the internet. The mark of great podcasting. So I think when I did my long hike, I met people along the way, but basically you'd stay together for a few hours or maybe an afternoon or something like that, and then you would roll. You either roll on or they'd stop someplace before you wanted to stop or whatever. I feel like doing that as a pair, like you don't want to go with a big group of people because the quiet is really good, and you want to kind of get some space on the trail.
Yeah.
But with a pair, you can say, you can get up early and say, I'm going to take off. I'll meet you, so-and-so, at the end of the day. And you also lose that, hey, if I twisted my ankle right now, I would be really super fucked.
Well, and frankly,
It's a different
If you
thing.
hike with somebody else, boy, does the weight become nice and distributed.
Yeah. Well, if you're carrying a tent, for sure.
Right. So I also read No Place to Hide by Glenn Greenwald about his interactions with Snowden, which is fantastic and really riveting. Greenwald, I know, is a polarizing figure, and that's exactly where he wants to be. And good on him. I think he's actually raising the right questions. But whatever you think about his politics, he's a phenomenal writer. He's a really, really good writer. Complex topics explained really clearly.
That's good.
I also read a biography of Captain Cook and his journeys to the New Amsterdam.
No spoilers. He had a good time in Hawaii.
Yeah. What was really fascinating was the difference in his experience. The thing I didn't realize, the difference in his experience between the Maori natives on New Zealand and the Aboriginal natives on Australia. The Maori were very warlike. They were willing to trade. They had experienced some Europeans before. But he was the discoverer of Australia. So the Aborigines he saw had never seen anybody. And they were totally disinterested.
Really?
He'd see them, they'd get to a ridge, they'd see him, and they'd just keep on walking.
Huh.
It was that's not something that I'm interested in. These giant 3-masted square-rigged schooners going through, and they're just like, okay, that's something that's happening.
Wow.
Yeah, totally far out.
When you go travel someplace new, does your reading shift to encompass the new place?
It did this time, which made me feel both kind of good and like I was a little bit of a poser.
Yeah.
I picked up the Captain Cook book in a bookstore in Australia, mostly because I love seafaring stories. I read, we talked about this, I read all the Patrick O'Brian novels last year. And I've been reading books about like the transatlantic race, the Vendée Globe, around the Drake Passage, Southern Ocean race. I love that stuff. Maybe because I know I'm never, ever going to do it. I don't have that desire to sail around the world, but I love the idea of it. So I read a lot about it, and Captain Cook satisfied that.
Cool. We talked about The Martian a little bit. We're going to do more on that later.
We're going to do more on that.
So if you want, this is probably a good time to tell people. We're all going to reread the book. You're going to listen to it on audio. Norm's going to read it for the first time. I'm probably going to read the physical version again. And then...
Of The Martian.
By Andy Weir. In a few weeks, we will have a spoiler cast for books.
Yes.
What some might call a book club conversation about the book. And
yes. So read it.
Read it.
And
you have, let's say we'll do it 3 episodes from now.
Perfect.
And if you like listening to podcasts, it's an audiobook also.
Exactly.
Which is just like a long podcast.
Right. It's like a narrative-driven podcast.
Lastly, I will say I read a book by a native New Zealander called Wolf, W-U-L-F. Oh, and I also just read The Luminaries, which is a book about the gold rush in New Zealand. It's a bestseller right now.
Yeah.
A lot of bookstores are putting it front and center. It's a lovely book. It's really riveting with some amazing characters. I'm not sure in the end if I think it's a truly great book, because it's a big, heavy book. I mean, it's like a lot goes. I sound like an idiot. There's a lot goes on, and
there's a lot of
shit happens.
Plot,
but it is incredibly plot heavy.
The girl
and
meets a
I'm
guy.
not exactly sure what the point is in the end.
Were you not entertained?
I was entertained.
Okay.
All the way through, but I wasn't left with anything that felt. Well, I kind of was. Anyway, I read The Luminaries, which would be standard reading for anyone visiting New Zealand because it covers the Hokitika and Dunedin. I can't remember how to pronounce it. Again, people are yelling at their computers right now telling me.
It's the best way to make a podcast.
I think that's a fine place to finish.
I agree, sir. Okay, so your homework, The Martian by Andy Weir, audiobook. Read the unabridged version. I don't think people do abridged versions, but just to be safe. And leave us feedback on iTunes if you like the show. Leave comments on
Please
YouTube.
do, yes.
Positive or negative, we like it all. We read comments. We may not respond to all of them, but we read them.
Tested's the only site on which I read the comments.
We'll talk about comments.
This is a week from now, and please check the site for some exciting announcements.
Oh, do you want to just tell them? Oh, it'll be tomorrow.
Yes, please check the website for some exciting announcements.
If you're a tested premium member, check your email. See you guys next week.
Bye, guys.
Hi, Maggie. Bye.